This podcast is sponsored by Camera Museum of London and Tang Cigars at 44 Museum Street, London. Welcome to a Fish Out of Water podcast. This is your host, Richard Lipman. Today we are interviewing Nichole Kolman. This is part 1 of 2 of this podcast.
My name is Nichole Kolman, and I am a world disruptor.
What's that mean?
What it means is that as a Heyoka empath, I was born with the ability to see the blind spots of a human being and of the trends in society that people are not aware of, but they are accustomed to the result of that, their pain, their anxiety, their split personalities, the men's depression rates, men being overly emotional, women being stuck in their mind, the whole reversal system that's going on, the whole more seminars, more motivations. Nobody understands that they're saturated with information, not transformation. And in order for you to transform, like most people read content or listen to influencers, but content is not always alive. It's not always charged. That's seen when someone's regurgitating papers they've read, information. Nothing I say to you is Google searchable, YouTube searchable in an article. It's a direct download. And because I have my fingers on the pulse of the public, often when I'm on my lives, which people can reach me at Tik Tok, I love Heyoka 777, people will say, oh my God, I feel like you're talking to me. So it's like I'm a huge mirror antenna that tunes into whoever's in front of me. All the clients that I have internationally come to me with relationship issues, life issues, self issues. It's all one common denominator. It is just alignment. And I know it gets a little bit murky with all the different sexual abbreviations of trans, straight, not straight, and things like that. But it still works to the core, because even in a same-sex marriage, only one can assume masculine energy, and only one can be the receptive, seductive, playful, little childlike feminine energy. Each has their own tools. And actually, it's those relationships that is very definitive in their action that you can see who's who. When you approach a same-sex couple on the street with a flyer, you'll see the masculine will take the flyer, not the feminine. But in today's society, with the regular men and women, the women are in the male psyche mentality, emotional setup, physicality, behavior, and have a need to conquer, crap, be territorial, war on war with girl on girl hate. That's why it's so popular. Fighting after a guy. Do you know how pathetic that is to any woman that has a sense of what value she brings as a woman? But in their mind, they think they're being strong. They are the weakest of women because they have to exude their strength. So the women of today are tanks with summer dresses, and the men of today are oyster snot energy. They fold under decisions. The women then have to shoulder the responsibility, take it out on their men when they're not backing off enough to let the men be men, and everybody's stuck in the blame game. And then the psychosis of psychologists and modalities learn to put labels, which gives the power to the person who did that label to us, and we are in victim energy. And that's a huge issue. So in other words, it doesn't dissolve the problem. It analyzes from every angle what it is, but it doesn't take it out. And when you feel more in a victim energy, you're saturated and drowning and treading water in guilt energy. And that's a big problem because guilt has only one job. Can you guess what that might be?
No, I don't know.
Guilt seeks punishment in every area of your life. Not only do the women reside in their mind, and the mind is wired to survive, it's not wired to love. So what is it always on? The lookout for the next war battle. So it's like a fine-tuned laser beam that has to look for what is trouble. That energy of it brings the trouble, so that then the mind can say to the woman, you see, you need me. You can't just rely on your heart. You need me. I need to protect you. Because the women are attracting that which they fear, because they're in fear energy, and love can't exist where there's fear. And being in your divine feminine energy is your biggest power base, if you know how to get into it, because fear can't exist in the presence of love. In the presence of love, why is it so powerful? Feminine energy is love energy. She's irresistible as fuck. She's magnetic as fuck. People want to give gifts. People want to bend over. They just want to be around. She's giving off some stuff that is very yummy. And why is love energy so powerful? It's not because people need it. What's the power behind it? Love is pure light. Nothing can fuck with it. You can't get roaches and parasitical entities coming to crawl up your butt, because it will singe the minute it comes near your light. So, when they say, oh, that person's a whole other world, yeah, nothing negative affects their world, because they're completely in that world. They're not observant of your rules and regulations. So your energies don't stick to them and doesn't affect them. They're immune.
Oh, that's very interesting. So we're going to continue with some questions about energies and masculine, feminine, and Gen Z. But before that, I'd like to know, what's your background in life, and what's your life experience that people.
Well, you know how they say, Richard, that the answer is always embedded in the question. What's my life experience is my life experience. But to give you some more thorough background, I am an international athlete / champion in the fitness world, bodybuilding, swimming, and gymnastics. I've had a lot of blessed opportunities in the theatrical and acting world, quite just by walking on the street and walking on a film set and having them take me as an extra, and then speaking up, everybody looking at their script, where, and then the director's like, no, keep it, that was brilliant. And then that's how it started. From there, I got passed around to then acting in movies, attracting managers, going to New York, getting in the William Esper Academy, doing very well there. So I have a lot of that. I'm also an international trainer. I've patented a connective tissue stretching. It's a system that I use that heals people's bodies because of my background in ballet, in training and gymnastics, and my Heyoka empath abilities, which I'll get into in a minute, because it's psychic as well. Because I see things in the dark and I see them around the corner, or I understand, it just comes to me a picture of where the problem is and what to do. And it's hard to explain to someone who doesn't have that. But basically, people around me who are sick, including strangers, say, I don't know why, I don't feel sick around you. They go into their pocket to throw away their heart pills. And I'm like, no, don't do that. But I get that a lot. So since I was a little girl, I've gathered crowds by words I've spoken. So it started in grade 3 or 4, where all the boys in the classroom would just follow me home with their bikes. And we'd sit on the porch and I'd talk to them. And the lady next door would say to my mother, you know, I keep an eye on your girl if I were you. Look at all the boys here. And my mom looked at her like, what's wrong with you? She's talking to them about life and love. And that's what I was doing. And it was really interesting when you look at the pattern in your life, because when I tried out in the play of Oliver Twist for Nancy, I got Fagin. That's who I got. It was just boys. It was crazy. It was crazy. When I was doing the Edwardian salon in New York, and I really didn't want to do the improv of any big part, because I wanted to do my physical training championships, and I just went into the school to finish with it. But when we went to see what parts we got, I'm like, I guess he forgot to put me. Oh, well, no work. Okay, bye. And they're like, no, Nichole, come back, look up. And I'm like, because it descends as lesser, the acting role. And I'm looking and they're like, look up, look up. He put me as Queen Victoria. And I'm like, no, I rush into the office. I'm like, I wanted to be the maid who picks up the cat shit, because if you put me as a queen, I'm going to change all the rules. Because if the maid falls, I'm going to pick her up and bring her to my dinner table. You don't want to do that. But that went really well, because I prayed to God that I would land commercial and not have to do the improv. And that's exactly what happened. So we've got the athletic background. My whole entire life, and I guess it started when I was 4, when I talked to rabbis or other,
And
people like
you were
that.
brought up where?
I was born in Israel, Tel Aviv,
Okay.
and we moved to Toronto when I was a teen. But when I was back there, and I would ask the rabbi questions, and they would look at my mother and not know where I would get a question like that. And when they give an answer, they would not understand how I could elaborate on it, or further pierce the little diluted answer they were giving to what they thought was a 4-year-old. So in other words, I took notice right away, and especially my mother's friends, my father's family friends. I realized after I buried them, when their friends would be there at the home, they would talk about how they saw me, and I'd say, all of you would just ignore me. Why did you do that? As a little girl, I remember you would talk to all the other kids, all the other siblings, but you would talk to me, and they'd look at me and they said, because you were a dangerous child. And I said, what do you mean? The things that came out of your mouth and what you said to the adults made them feel very naked. So it was very clear to me that what I took for granted everybody could do, and that also happened in school when teachers were talking about not cheating on tests and what cheating means, telling a lie. And in my mind, I saw her in her pajamas in a different home with a different man, and I said that out loud, and I got expelled. She got fired. It was a mess. But I learned that. But then as I started to be with people, because I'm not a conventional sort of hi, how are yous and schmooze, I would just see a person in the gym, and maybe I'd see a biker, 300-pound biker, but I'd see something about him. I'd say, you, come here. And he'd look at me kind of like in shock, because here I was, this little thing training with my baseball hat and like triple X sweats just draped on my little body, and he's this big fat thing, and he comes up to me. It was humorous, and I said, listen, right now I know that you're going through, and I'd look to the side, and he'd come over in my view. I'm like, get out of my way, I have to see. And he was laughing, and I'd see his whole scenario, and I would tell him, You're going through this, but don't worry because it's going to come round circle because that thing you forgot that you did, that this and this, and people's eyes would well up. Men would crush my face to their chest, tell me I'm their soulmate. And I'm like, no, no, I'm just the messenger. It would be a lot of things like this. I started seeing things happening in the gym regarding women. And that's how I knew there was a whole reversal thing. And I saw it 15 years before it was apparent, like right now. And I wrote about it in my book, The Wisdom of the Penis, because I noticed it in the gym. You know how when you see a movie and there's robbers, thieves, and all the lights are off, but they've got these special glasses that shows you the laser of where all the trap wirings are? That's how I see. I can predict that woman over there is interested in this man here near the water fountain. It's going to take her exactly 15 minutes to make her way here, and then she's going to go here. Meanwhile, he's going to notice something. So he's going to fake going to the bathroom in order to bump into her. If I was shooting a film, a reality show, and I predicted what was about to be happening, it would happen, and it would be a sensation. So it is through my upbringing and also bullies. I never had friends. I had people that wanted to take me out or the most popular person, and each one would be my friend. Why? Because when they would tell me, you know, Nichole, you're going to die at about 3 o'clock, 3:05. Yeah, I know, I've heard. Can you just let me get through? Because I got shit to do before, you know, my deadline of meeting this Donna Smith fat cow that wants to do me in. And I literally I started going outside the window in the back of the football yard because I wanted to escape, you know, having my lights punched out. But then I said, no, I didn't do anything. And so I made it through the crowd, and I had said, get out of my way. Oh my God, she's looking for you. I said, I know, get out of my way. And I finally would see, you know, little Donna Smith with freckles and her nostrils like flaring. I've been looking for you. I'm like, I know. And I've been looking for you because there's something you need to know. You know, that friend that you think is really close. And all of a sudden, I gave her insight. I said, how could this be if this be? She looked at me. She cocked her head. She took a deep breath. She hugged me, said, I'm always here for you. I don't know what happened to that other person. But I realized that my tongue was my weapon. And it also saved me from a substitute gymnastic coach who molested me the first night home, wasn't able to do it again because I needed to keep him so engaged and so enthralled that he forgot what he would want to do. And so it's funny how a lot of people go through survival, bad thing, call them whatever you want to call them. But I really see it as forging a blade for your particular route in your life. My skill became top tier when I could get myself out of danger. So I looked at it that way. And then right now, I've been on a world tour for a bit through Europe and the islands and things like that, promoting my book, The Wisdom of the Penis, doing events wherever I can, speaking my insight about feminine, masculine energies, looking and hunting for the right backup as a team for the ideas that I have for a killer app polarization idea, which no one's ever heard of. Because again, you need to know when you're reversing your energy and you're out of it. And for you to have an app that tells you right now, and this is what you say or do to reverse it, that's what I'm presently working on in search of the right partners. I'm really excited about that. In essence, I learned through my training of my clients, through working at gyms that said, we need like 10 of you. You sold how much? This was not in a month, this was a week. It wasn't my technique, although my technique was priceless. It was my insight. No one can have enough of knowing what makes them tick. It's not like seeing a tarot card a writer, talker, who says, "Oh, you just left your boyfriend." And you're like, "Yeah. And this is why I paid you to regurgitate what I know and reiterate the pain." I tell people when they come to me, don't leave me a novel of what you went through. I'll already know. What I need to know is what you need to change. Because I've realized, and I didn't always know I was a Heyoka empath, and it happened by fluke. But once it got in my attention as I was flipping YouTubes, I saw the word Heyoka and I went, what? Hey, what? And I read the traits and I read the upbringing and everything, and I'm like, wow. And I even have some things that they don't mention, which when I was in LA, I had very special gifted people saying to me, "You've got to put a Band-Aid on your belly button." I'm like, great. Why? And they said, "You literally will take an energy of sickness and stuff." And I had a guy who had gallbladder pain. And after a session with me, I was in so much gallbladder pain. He's like, "Nichole, I don't know what happened. It's gone." I'm like, "Yeah, because I fucking took it." And I remember doing this with my mom, was the first one I noticed when I was 12. I wake up with a groin pull. I'm like, I fell out of bed, or was it that hockey skating dream that I felt? I don't know. But I would tell my mom, and she said, "Oh, that happened last night, but I don't feel it anymore." And I said, "That's strange." But that's why I stopped training people, because they get better way too fast. And I would get their injuries. That's why I had to learn how to heal myself and not go to physio. I am an avid sports nutritionist as well. And so I concoct a lot of things. Oh, and I've got some other things coming up. And when I'm ready, perhaps at that point we could do another episode on something that takes away all smells of the human body, especially organ smells for women. And I think that's going to be very useful and doubles up as a facial glow and armpits and feet and breath. So I'm really looking forward to that. So when you ask about my life experience, when I wrote The Wisdom of the Penis, it was a 12-year ordeal. In those 12 years, I'd be at 5 different Starbucks doing what? Listening and volunteering my insights to girls and guys who all of a sudden I had parents coming in go, "What did you say to my girl? She dropped her abusive boyfriend. She's been with him since she was 12. We've sent her to the most expensive NLP and psychosis and all this. I talked to her for 15 minutes. She dropped him." And so I was quite a celebrity.
Do you remember what you said to her?
Yes, I do. I get pulled to say what is most familiar with a person. So it's not like I had a protocol. She said to me, what I recall was, "Nichole, my mother always said that Jesus forgives." I said, "Aha." And she said, "And that's why when Dad came back after 10 years, he was with a different woman, and he recently came back, she forgave him." So I said, "Aha." And then I said to her, "Do you believe God is powerful?" And she said, "Yes." "Do you believe if the devil, if there was a devil, and he was in front of God and he spit in his face, would God say, 'Now it's okay, do it here now on this side'?" And she just kind of went like, shook her head and said, "No, He wouldn't. That's right. He wouldn't. He would step aside. He would no longer deal with a spitting devil. It would not be in his territory. That's all it took, because how the mother formed that template was disruptive to her sense of dignity and was rooted back in Eve and Adam's perceived first time error as sin, thereby abandonment, cast you out. Which, if you think about it, makes a human being feel unvalued and needs to do things to gain the love of God. And I'm tearing all that apart in my next book called The Supernatural Badass. But for right now, what I'm getting ready to release, and it's a lot of fun because it's in the jargon of 20, 30-year-olds, and of course, Gen Z. It's ghosting, it's takers, it's fakers, it's everything that is going on today in an ebook. I've created something called The Sacred and Feral as Fuck Creology, consisting of 3 books. Book 1, Chaos, Meet Wisdom, The Cosmic Roast. Book 2, From Chasing to Chosen, Savage Status. Book 3, Fuck the Fade, No More Delulu, Just Dominion. And I'll tell you, and the thing is, the reason I did this, and I did it in bullet, it's like a blueprint. There's bullets, there's what to look for, why it feels off, why you're not awake to this, what's in the system, in the matrix, in the dating protocol. You know, it's kind of like we've been indoctrinated to buy into the system of work for a paycheck, put all the money in, 104K, 400K, whatever it's called, then collect. Well, that money's sitting there, not making you money. In order to play the game, it is no different than going to Vegas, where they sell you blackjack casino booklets on how to play the game to keep you fucked and keep you playing. So I had so many girls and guys say to me, can you just give me a bulletproof tips and tricks, something to do? I don't believe in shortcuts. And I would say to them, I don't do tips and tricks. I'm not your pimp. We do the real thing or we don't do it. But because they were seeking other TikTok femme coaches and stuff, and in the idea that feminism is soft and this, nobody talks about the fire of the light of flame. She's not a daffodil. She's a lotus flower. So I said, what if I could write my insights, even though I need to be multi-layered, in bullets, in the slang, in the ghetto, in what's going on, give them kind of like a cosmic slap, because no one's going to do it for them. And along with that, and originally I was letting it go at 149 US. We've got it at pre-orders for 77, depending on when your podcast goes out. Or they can buy each book separately for 33. But when they do the pre-order, they get a 10-minute clarity call for free with me and a secret chapter. And they get to be part of the community. Now, the community is not just people talking about their problems. I am giving insight daily, sometimes 2-3 times a day, about everything under the sun before you go to sleep, what to think about. And I'm going to be very tuned into the people, because I'm also holding bi-weekly master classes for $27 monthly. That's an add-on, a premium add-on. But the Forbidden Circle Collective, where you get insights daily, that is going to be waived, the 33, if they get the pre-order. Otherwise, that's also an add-on. Plus, we've also designed a workbook, unlike anything that's out there, and a feminine energy glow up list. So I'm in the midst of just releasing, getting all that formatted and having our launch date, which will be on my Stan store, which is stan.store/sacred and feral AF. Of course, you can also catch me on my website, NicholeKolman.com with K, no E, my YouTube channel, Nichole Kolman, Message in a Bottle, or my TikTok at I Love Heyoka 777. I do lives that run for like 2 hours where I answer everybody's questions. So when you have a gift, like if you're a protege as an artist and you just paint these amazing things and you say to that 6-year-old or 12-year-old, what is your experience? It is not earthly. It is a past gem. And so all I can say is by the results in my life, by the over 3,500 international clients that I've had that have completely swapped their life, got rid of people, got rid of this and that, changing in a different vibration, launching their own passion projects. People I'd meet on the beach that would just hold me and quiver and say, oh my God, there's something about you. Are you a mermaid? You know, and they'd watch me when I go in the ocean because they were scared I wouldn't come back. And they'd cry just because I said a few words that were pertinent to them. I even remember going shopping for food, I would talk to a guy and I tell him about the epidemic of the soft boys and war queens of today. And I said, you know what? Got to stop this or it's going to turn to Atlantis all over again. I'm not playing here because I do not want to see a time where our men are so docile that they become our pets. That is not the way it's supposed to be. So he looked at me and he goes, are you one of them? And I'm like, what, one of them? Yeah. Are you like, when you walk away, are you going to like disappear in the air? I'm like, I hope not. I haven't only had, there is one man who's a producer. His name is James Michael Carmichael. Big black burly dude. The producer of Motown, Lionel Richie, the old greats, Diana Ross. I met him as a personal client of mine. Loved him to pieces.
Okay, can we come back to that? 2 minutes. Can I call you back in 10 minutes? I'll send you a link because the Zoom is running out. We'll talk about the producer, and I'll have some more questions about your books
perfect.
And Gen Z. All right.
Okay, honey.
Thanks, Nichole.
Bye.
This podcast is sponsored by Camera Museum of London and Tang Cigars at 44 Museum Street, London. Thank you for listening to a Fish Out of Water podcast. This is your host, Richard Lipman. Should you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please get in touch.